for Jason Battieri.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
I voted for Battieri too. But
other people who got votes,
big
though,
list here.
Carl Ablett, just I think for old time's sake. Dane Tilse, possibly because of all the statistical criticisms he got for no scores, no breaks, no offloads, no tackle busts, etc. James Roby, underrated. Jamie Shaw, possibly off the back of not getting in the England squad. Jimmy Kinehorse, I think that was a more than one Leeds fan got in touch on Jimmy Kinehorse. Joe Mellor, Josh Bowden, Junior Sow, Matt Cook, Michael Dobson, Michael Lawrence, I think that's a sensible shout actually. Morgan Knowles, I think he's a bit young to be underrated, but certainly a promising prospect. Paul McShane, Rhys Evans, Sean Lunt.
Sean Lunt I like as a
Sika Manu, Steve Michaels and Thomas Minns.
Thomas Minns is another good shout.
We also got one for Lee Breers, but obviously this isn't the expeditions to Everest Base Camp underrated players. This is the Super League.
You have to still be a current player. Perhaps we should have made it clear.
I think it was clear. I think we were having our tackle yanked a little bit on this one by one of our old school listeners.
Oh, and well done, you. Fantastic.
But from underrated, we go to a less prestigious, I suppose, award of the most underrated player of the year, Tom. Previous, in inverted commas, winners. In 2014, this went to Rangi Chase quite considerably. In 2015, though, it was spread around. We had an equal share of the vote to Carl Ablett, Matty Smith, Kevin Locke and Chris Sandow. So, Tom, was it as close this year?
It was, oddly enough, a bit of a landslide for us this year. In fourth place, Danny Brough came in with 8% of the vote. In third place this year with 9% of the vote, which is surprising considering he was last year's Super League Pod Player of the Year, was Adam Cuthbertson.
I think we've all felt that we've all overrated him, potentially.
Yeah, perhaps. So maybe people have just learned how to play against him and learned to tackle him up top. Big Coltrane Dave Taylor came in second place with 11% of the vote. So with 66% of the vote, 2/3 of Super League Pod Sloppy's voters named Sam Tompkins as this year's overrated player. Now, I assume that you feel that that's perhaps a shade unwarranted, to say the least.
That's understandable. I do believe that if I'd have not put him on the voting form, he would not have got 66% of the vote. But because he was there, people just hate him, so vote that way to
for me,
have a dig at someone that they don't like.
For me, there is a legitimate reason why he's not had a good season.
Oh, of course.
There's been legitimate things that add up to not a good season for me, but I still think on his day he's shown that he can be a strong attacking fullback and that his defensive reading of the game has improved whilst he's been down under. The problem for me was he was carrying an injury for a large part of the season, which meant that his attacking play was muted, if not blunted, quite considerably by that. You and I talked on a few occasions about how we wish he would take the line on a bit more and not just make the easy pass when fielding balls. And when he started to do that towards the back end of the season, before he was out injured again, actually he was proving what an useful attacking player he can be for Wigan. So
I thought he was very good up until he got an injury mid-game in the Wakefield one where Sean O'Loughlin got sent off.
Yeah.
And he had some patchy performances, a couple of strong ones just before he got his final injury. But I understand why he's on this list, because he's, as far as I'm aware, one of the highest paid 2 or 3 players in the Super League.
You would expect.
And if that's the case, you would expect him to be the best player on the pitch more often than not, and he hasn't been this year. So I think in that regard it's deserved, but I think overrated in terms of he's not been one of the best 2 or 3 players, which is where he's rated at.
Yeah, exactly.
Where he should be performing at, and he hasn't.
Well, congratulations to Sam Tompkins. Which takes us on.
Who else got votes in?
Oh, sorry, forgive me now. Overrated. So this is going to be a talking point. Jamie Shaw got some votes for most overrated player, which is surprising. Callum Watkins, perhaps less so. Kevin Brown, Mark Sneed, Sean O'Loughlin, Danny Houghton, and Zach Hardacre. I think the one that stands out for me in that has been similar to Sam Tompkins in a lot of senses is Zach Hardacre, in that you would have expected him to be the best player on the pitch most of the time, and hasn't been that for one reason or another for Leeds this year.
I think for some of the Hull players on that list, it's possibly that they've been talked up to a level higher than where we actually see them at for some people, and maybe that's why they made, rather than saying they're not very good players, they're they're saying they are not great players, they are not world-class players, and that's where the suggestion that they're overrated has come from.
There you go. Okay, so that takes us on to an award that was new to the SLPIES last year, and that was our Clown of the Year award. And this was for players or people associated with the game who've made us laugh and entertained us and just given us lots of talking points and good quotes and stuff like that. And last year's winner was the Wigan centre Anthony Gelling, Mark. So what happened with this year's votings? Who are our favourite clowns?
Well, I feel like clowns are getting a bad rep, obviously, at the moment. And
I know.
The way people have interpreted this award, despite how it was explained on the voting list, is people who've chosen other options, I believe, have done so thinking clown means negative.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to change this to Entertainer of the Year next year.
Perhaps.
But the top four was taken in the spirit it was intended, certainly. And in fourth place was Frank Pritchard of Hull FC. I think everyone enjoyed his bits before a couple of the Challenge Cup games on the BBC. In third place was Mike Stevo Stevenson in his farewell season commentating for Sky Sports.
Yes.
In second place, the reliably baffling and
quote machine himself,
entertaining Marwan Kukash with 24% of the vote. But the winner, retaining his crown, the man of the people, with 46% of the overall vote, Anthony Gelling is our entertaining clown of the year.
And he is great value.
If anything, he's been better this year than last year.
I was explaining to Chris, who sits opposite me at work today, because obviously I was printing this off and doing it at lunchtime, and he was asking me what I was up to. So I was explaining, he knows I do the podcast, and I was on the Anthony Gelling page, and I was explaining some of the songs about him, about how he shits where he wants and things like that. So I was educating. So we're not specifically on rugby league, but on Anthony Gelling, and he's a good talking point for people.
It's certainly and I think he's a positive character now. He's had his indiscretions in the past, and whilst they're sort of jokingly celebrated,
actually he has a very positive role within Wigan. I mean,
the way he's become
house parties on his BMX. He likes to sort his aerials. He's just a bit of a normal guy. He's accessible, isn't he? That's the thing I like about him.
And friendly and entertaining, certainly,
Yeah, precisely. So, that brings us to the See You Next Tuesday award. Others. I keep forgetting about others. Yeah. Who are the others?
Dennis Betts, Eddie Hemmings, Kieran Cunningham, Tony Gigo, possibly for the... What was that French rapper he did the celebration thing for?
Oh, I know. Wasn't Jewel a singer?
Jewel's a woman.
It is.
I don't know what I'm on about. Louis McCarthy Scarsbrook.
I don't think it was her.
Nigel Wood, Phil Clark, Sam Tompkins, Sean Wayne and Brian Carney all got votes there.
Fantastic. Right. So that takes us on to the See You Next Tuesday award, which is one for people whose behaviour at times has been less than what we would expect of someone breathing the privileged air of professional rugby league. Is that probably the nicest way of putting it?
Yeah, it's for the award for sort of kind of generally poor behaviour.
Yeah, exactly.
Bad form.
Yeah, we're skirting around it, but I think most of us know what a See You Next Tuesday is. Previous winners of this award have been Zach Hardacre and Marwan Kukash. How did it go this year, Mark?
Well, fourth place was Sam Barlow. He got 10% of the votes. Obviously, we've talked a lot about some of his activities in recent weeks. In third place, a bit of a blast from the start of the season, really, in terms of the indiscretions and that sort of conversation, but that was Brett Ferris with 21% of the vote. In second place, equaling his Clown of the Year percentage of the vote, was Marwan Kukash with 24% of the vote here. He is the Marmite of rugby league, you might argue.
Yes.
Then the winner this year, though, is someone who is widely disliked. I think emphasised partly because he coaches a winning team and partly because he's coached them to such dull rugby league stylings this season that has shaken the entertainment factor a little bit. But it goes to Sean Wayne with 38% of the votes. Others who got votes was Kieran Cunningham, the excuse machine himself, Danny Brough as well, Eddie Hemmings, Logan. So some of these are repeat people.
Yeah.
Logan Tompkins.
What's Logan Tompkins done wrong?
I'm not sure. This one must have been personal. Richard Silver.
He's diddled someone's wife.
Richard Silverwood, who's the first one of a couple of ones that maybe we should have thought about getting on the ballot. Sam Tompkins, and the other one who should have been on the ballot possibly, the Hemel Stags board.
I think we might have got some votes for at least the Hemel Stags board. I think you might be right there. Richard Silverwood and I are friends on Facebook, and the more and more I see of him, like in day-to-day life, quite like the guy. When you see him out of the referee's uniform,
you just don't want him.
Just a normal. I wouldn't want him anywhere near my sister.
Yeah.
But that's true of a lot of blokes. So there you go. Okay, the Dr. Bob Phillips Award for Listener of the Year. This is where you guys vote for the listener to the Super League pod that you've taken the most enjoyment from, whether it be from them contributing by being on the show, or by tweeting, or the things that they've had to say. Now, the two previous winners for this are Dr. Bob Phillips in 2014 and 2015.
By being the 2014 winner, obviously that's how he earned.
That's why we called it the Dr. Bob Phillips Award. So, talk us through how voting went in the Dr. Bob Phillips Award for Listener of the Year, Mark.
Well, on this one we didn't do a shortlist. We don't have favourites. We love you all.
Yeah.
So it was a total free-for-all kind of situation, and the voting went thusly. In fourth place with 5% of the vote was Sarah Scoots Mackenzie, who's been been around for a while with the show, but an up-and-comer this year.
Caught up on the rails in season 3, hasn't she?
In third place, Wally Frogmore, the only person to actively begin a campaign that I shut down quite quickly. This isn't like other awards where you can badger people. We want it to be organic. In second place, and well deserving of this second place actually, and to be fair, Wally Frog was entertained us all year too.
Absolutely, 100%.
In second place, well deserved, goes to Tyler Casfan. He's had another strong season as he develops. From in terms of growth.
What are you doing?
I don't know.
What are you as he develops?
I don't know.
Get back in your box, Savile. Christ alive.
Well, he's doing his A-levels now. He's not doing his GCSEs.
And he's still finding time for the Super League pod. What a sensible and intelligent young man.
The winner, though, with over 50% of the votes, has gone to Dr. Bob Phillips.
So the 3-time, just to be perfectly clear, recipient of the Dr. Bob Phillips Award is now Dr. Bob Phillips.
Yeah, I realise.
Is there a statute of limitations on the number of times you can consecutively win this?
It might be.
Congratulations, Dr. Bob, by the way, before I start cracking jokes.
Well deserved.
Well deserved indeed, absolutely. 3 years of continuous support for us too, as a podcast endeavour, and becoming a very, very important part and a welcome part of the Super League pod, I would say.
When he did stuff like answering people's health questions sort of mid to late season, that almost sealed it, didn't it?
That's how you do it. Yeah, that's how. In fact, he's helped me out in the past. I remember early in season 1, I shaved a mole off the top of my head accidentally, and I hit him up for some advice. So
that was back when we weren't sure if he was a real doctor, before we knew he was a world-renowned teenage cancer specialist.
That's it, absolutely. He even went so far this week. One of my boss's assistants, she's on Twitter, and she was looking at I was looking at the podcast Twitter account one lunchtime, and she was obviously floating about.
Oh, the last that you're trying to pull?
No,
you made everyone follow?
No, I'm not trying to pull her.
Well, why did you make everyone follow her then?
Because I'm being nice to a friend
using
at
your
work.
podcast to try and pull.
Well, she's 21. She's way too young for me. Way too young. But even he was the first person to even give little Beth a little follow. So good for Bob.
Yeah.
What a nice chap. And thoroughly deserved.
Yeah, definitely. And the listeners keep voting for him because he is the king listener.
Well, it's quicker than dialing 111, I suppose, in a lot of cases as well. Who else got a mention then?
Well, our good friend Barry McDermott, who's on the trail to Everest Base Camp along with Lee Breers.
Absolutely, and they're doing fantastic.
Sending us regular updates and pictures along the way. If you want to donate, obviously they're raising money for the Steve Prescott Foundation. Mm-hmm. Check out basically at Baz McDermott 10, is it?
Yeah.
Or Barry McDermott.
I think it's Barry McDermott 10.
Either way, search him on.
Yeah. He's not exactly inconspicuous. You'll find him on Twitter.
Search him on Twitter, and you'll find links to give to sponsor those guys doing that great track there. Yeah. Then other people. I'm not sure if this guy actually listens to the show. Dan Tomlinson is involved in some of the stuff out there. I think
I've seen
series about RL and
floating around. Yeah.
He does a fanzine for Hull FC and that.
That's right. He's going to do some stuff for 18th Man, or am I getting confused?
Oh, possibly, yeah. That might be the one he does stuff for. Yeah. But Dan, I'm not sure he listens to the show. But if he does, then he got a vote. There was a couple of people who definitely don't listen to the show, so I struck their votes out basically.
All right.
Dom Hodgson, the Hodge.
Yes.
Helen Hughes. This is an interesting one. Helen Hughes was voted as Listener of the Year by her loving husband, Owen Hughes, in appreciation for her bringing him child into the world and giving him a lovely home life.
As I recall, she bakes excellent cakes.
Exactly, yeah. And Helen Hughes voted for Dr. Bob Phillips.
Clearly,
Not her sister or her husband.
well, you know, that's all right. She's recently given birth. She's pretty much allowed to do what she wants.
Of course she is, exactly. Paul Ludo Lewis, Paul Michael Craig and Rich Wilkinson were also vote earners this year.
Stalwarts of the Super League.
Deserving. Everyone who's had a vote in that category deserves it, because we, like we say, we have no favourites.
No, not particularly. Well, I do, but I won't talk about them. No, congratulations, Dr. Bob. 3 years out of 3. That is a remarkable achievement.